the joy and the exuberance that you can see in the eyes of the children and the young people and the elderly.
I see the eyes of the children and the parents alike, the young and old, and I really start to get that exhilarating feeling. What a great thing for a committee and for everybody who's connected with it to provide for the city.
It's tradition now, and I think traditional memories stay with you really long, and it's a warm feeling. It's a family feeling.
The fact that people love it and look forward to it every year, I feel that that's very important to continue, and the fact that it's continued for 40 years is absolutely marvelous.
It goes back to 1952 when Father Tierney made the decision that he would like to see something happen during the Christmas season that involved family, involved Santa Claus, and I guess create a little different environment for the Christmas season.
They decided to have a parade down through Quincy. And Father Tierney asked for some volunteers, and of course I volunteered.
Well, I knew Father Thomas Tierney as a parishioner. I've been a member of this parish all my life. He was the personification of love of God, love of country, and love of his fellow man.
Father Tierney was very community-orientated in terms of a parade priest, in terms of being a chaplain of the fire department, and many other things he got involved in.
He was an organizer. He was a charismatic leader. He was the type of person that you would really rally behind.
Yeah, I can still see him charging down the street. He'd have his hat on, and everything had to go on time. Everything had to be precise. He didn't care if the politicians weren't there. That parade started. It started. And if it was at 1:30 or if it was at 2 o'clock, it started on the nose. 2 o'clock, out you go. And down the street they would go. And and that was his way. But he'd get so involved in the thing. Get all hyped up and everything, and then after it was over, he'd have a little time for everybody that helped him. And
he loved music, and he loved entertainment.
He was always wheeling and dealing as far as getting band units to make sure that the Quincy Parade was a good parade. He used to have of course at that time the CYO bands were very prevalent, which they aren't today. He'd get all those bands like St. Thomas Moores. He'd get the Braintree Drum and Bugle Corps. To him, parades meant everything. He loved bands.
We built our first float for Father Tierney from the Adams Heights Men's Club. Then we put 4 floats in the parade, 4 years running, and won 4 prizes. Then we retired it.
He always used to say to me, "I'd love to get a float that looked like the one from the Rose Bowl Parade." And he always wanted to go see the Rose Bowl Parade, but he never got there. But that was the float that he always wanted. He said, if I could only have one float like that was his dream. And I think he'd be happy to see the floats today because they are gorgeous. I mean, people put a lot of effort into them.
I think he got the name of the parade priest because he put so much time and effort into what he created.
But he was always good to everybody. Never had a dime in his pocket. He gave it to everybody. The fire department, the church, and parades were his big thing, and helping people.
Father Tierney died in January of 1964. On December 6th of 1963, a month before he died, the people of Quincy, the people of the parade, the festival committee at that time, which was being sponsored by the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, put together a little tribute to him because he had been transferred out of St. John's Parish to Roxbury. But he still came back for the parade and for other events that were taking place. The George F. Bryan Post put together a float in his honor for that particular parade, and it was quite a fine tribute.
Of course, everything had to keep Christ in Christmas.
He's a legend. and he appropriately deserves the title of Quincy Parade Priest, because there wasn't a parade within miles of Quincy that he wasn't associated with.
But my involvement actually goes back before my involvement with Quincy Savings Bank. In the 50s, the middle 50s and the late 50s, when I was a teenager, my mother used to work in sales at what was then Sheridan's department store on Hancock Street. And at Thanksgiving, just around Thanksgiving time, she would bring myself and my younger sister and my younger brother to the parade. And I've got to tell you, I still love Christmas as I did then, and I love parades. And we used to go, and particularly my younger brother. It was just a tremendous memory that I have as a child.
When I was 7 years old, I was in a Girl Scout float, and I was a daisy, like the big flowers, and it was pouring rain, so I had like crepe paper stains all over. But I can remember that to this day, and that's when I was 7, which was a couple of years ago.
When I think back to the 50s with my brother and sister, I guess the thing that I really remember the most is my brother wanted to buy everything that a vendor came by with. And it was a constant battle to try to look at the floats and to enjoy the music and to remember the Christmas spirit and to try not to buy more than one's arms could carry from Quincy Square in those days. So although I don't remember floats, I think I remember everything that was probably sold during the parade that contributed to the holiday season.
I was the chairman of the Adams Heights Men's Club float. The one I remember the best, we had the Madonna of the Sea. And I made it in pastels. Everything was the flowers punched into the chicken wire. And I'm talking the truck, the cab, the thing, everything was one complete mass of flowers. And over the front of the truck, we made a tremendous sailfish with the big swordfish sticking out. And he was leaping over the thing over a wave. And then behind it, we had 6 swans as you came down the bed of the truck, and all in white and pinks and so forth. And inside each swan was a little girl holding on, and they were pulling this big scallop shell. And the Madonna was standing naturally there. That one I remember because of the colors.
From that point, I just think it continued to grow, and George Fay, who succeeded Father Tierney, was one that I think brought a lot of innovation and creativity, looking at the addition of floats and trying to go out and solicit more bands for participation. And he was always one who was very strong on people's participation. And
George Fay was a very remarkable person. Of course, I've known George Fay since I was a young person growing up in this city.
oh, George just was a bundle of energy and a person that was always thinking in what you could do differently and looking at people's participation. And I guess the funny story that I remember with George was that I think there was one parade we were looking for a Christmas tree. And I had my station wagon. And George says, "I'll get you a tree." So we drove down to a department store that was then located in President's Place. Not President's Place, but President's Plaza. And he walked in and said to the store manager, "I need your tree. We'll bring it right back." Now, this was a tree that was all dressed up, plugged in, was going. George goes on and plugs it, gets in the back of the wagon, lays straight down. He had the tailgate down. He's hanging on the tree until we reach our destination. We used that tree, and it fit in very nicely with what we're doing in the parade. After the parade, we get the tree, and George gets back in his prone position in the wagon, and we drive back to the department store, and we bring it in, we plug it in, and we went up to the store manager, "There's your tree, thanks a lot," and walked out. And George, there was nothing that George couldn't accomplish. We have the costume character activity, and I guess probably 3 or 4 weeks before each parade, he'd be out and visiting some areas, and he'd bump into people that he knew and liked, and, "Hey, how would you like to be in the parade?" And all of a sudden, we'd probably end up with a list of people that you could never satisfy.
I talked to him many times on the phone, talked to him many times prior to a parade, and got along very well. And they had some sort of I guess an honors night, you might call it. And I took my wife to this affair, and I saw George, and called him over and introduced him to my wife, and went along with a long conversation. And at the end of it, he says, "By the way, who are you?" And I realized then, George has never seen me other than in makeup
or over the phone. So here I am in real life. The first year we did not, we were stuck back in the ranks, and I think through our antics, they felt we were holding up some of the parade. We tried not to, but we did. So they decided the best thing to do is let them go out in front and do their thing. We practiced real hard for that Quincy Christmas parade. We learned about 8 or 10 Christmas songs, which was really good, we thought, in a very short period of time. And we did well. We started off, we got to played 2 or 3 songs, got to the middle of the square, and drum major blew his whistle, and I think everybody had a different page because everybody played a different song. And of course, the crowd loved it.
For a great number of years, the Christmas Festival Committee, as it is now known, was part of a Chamber of Commerce, then South Shore Chamber of Commerce.
Well, I think the secret of this parade today, as it is constructed and as it's presented, lies in the committee. I can't be sure of this, but it seems to me in reading the names of the people who are associated with the Christmas festival and the Christmas parade are people who have been with George White and that group for a number of years. They have loads of experience, so it would seem to me that that probably is the feature in being able to put on a parade of the caliber we have.
I think today we have a committee that works well together. They accept the responsibilities, have a lot of fun, but certainly a lot of frustration.
It's a worthwhile effort. We spend a good number of Wednesday nights over the course of the year but there's a friendship that has grown between the members of the committee, and we help each other on other areas beyond the parade and whenever the need arises.
We have a nice committee, so it's a joy. It's really nice to work with them. And then you feel as though you're doing something that nobody else is doing. Well, in 1968, Campfire, I was involved with Campfire Girls, and we put 1 float in that year, and then for 11 years after that, I helped. And then I think it was in 1978, Dick Venner asked me if I would like to work with him on the parade committee, and I thought I'd like to do that. In early September, we have a seminar, and what it is the new people that are coming in that know absolutely nothing about putting in a float. We give them help. We have somebody from a commercial float building company come in and help, and we have people that are have been involved with the non-commercial, just give them tips.
We've been in the float business 55 years, okay? My father started the business back that long ago. We've been in the Quincy Parade for 11 years. The first year we had 1 float with South Shore Banks. The second year was 3. This year it's 6. It's all in the family. We go anywhere from 4 of us till this morning we had 15 people in the barn working.
It's been interesting to see the different organizations. You know, like I remember years ago we would look forward to Curtain Call Theater. They always put a spectacular float in. But now again, we have Woodard School, and those kids work very hard, and they do very well.
The girls derive a great deal of satisfaction putting the float together. They really like seeing the smiles on the youngsters along the parade route. It kind of gives them a real high for the day. They like to share their creativity with everyone.
I believe the name of the float this year is going to be the Nifty 50s, and it's because the parade started in the 50s, I guess, the Quincy Parade, so we're going to have like a jukebox and old 45 records and a pink Cadillac on the back of it that like the wheels move and everything. It's going to be really neat looking. So.
I thought it was just great that Woodward School was the winner in 1991, because if you look back in the past and the float winners, I think they have won it 6 times prior to this, and if you're capping somebody who's been, I guess, in terms of winning it the most times, Woodward would have to be the champ. And
we changed the method of judging from random selection of people who had no criteria to go by, and we always had arguments at the end of the parade or dissatisfied people. I'm not saying the way we changed it, we just still didn't have dissatisfied people, but we ended up with 5 categories: originality, use of material, use of color, overall appearance, and how the builders of the float adhered to the theme of their particular float. While we have a general theme for the parade itself. Each float has its individual theme.
It was our first float, and it was made, we did it all the people in the association put it all together, and we had Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it was just the most beautiful float you want to see. And of course Snow White was exceptional. She happens to be our daughter, and she was exceptional, but that was our first really involvement in it. But the funny part of it was we were putting the float together in a garage down at Dwayne's yard. He let us use one of his big buildings, and we put the truck we had it all done, everything on it, and then we said, well, let's try it out. Well, unfortunately, we had covered the wheels. We couldn't we couldn't turn the wheels.
The floats that we have put together have been, in fact, homemade floats. We always lose bits and pieces on the way up from C Street, but by the time we made it through the parade, we had, I guess, about 80% of it still intact. For a while there, I wouldn't throw pieces away of the floats because we may need a giant candy cane or a castle or some entryway. So for about 10 years, my garage was filled with different props for potential parade floats, and one year we combined them all. No one knew except us that, in fact, this was something of a repeat performance, but it was elements of all the different floats we'd put together in the past.
St. John's, I think the history is with their CYO, which is the Parish Youth Organization. For myself, that was in the 70s with Father Joe Conley, who was at St. John's for 10 years. And he used to get all of us kids together and put a float in every year, and we've won Father Tierney's trophy many times and also placed in other positions. We thought it was important that the parish be represented because of Father Tierney's involvement in the parade 40 years ago. So we made some phone calls, got people together, we dedicated the float to his memory.
All right, I'm Kathy Callahan. This is Germantown Yacht Club. We've had a float in the parade for about 8 years now, and our very first float was How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So this year we're going back to honor Dr. Seuss and to do the Grinch and to do a few of the other characters that he has done. We have the Cat in the Hat because the Cat in the Hat's in every book, and we did a lot of the work in the cellars of the different members' homes, and then we put it all together yesterday.
We're Sacred Heart Youth, and we are a brand new CYO. We just were formed in August of this year, and our float represents the caroling over the years. And what we did is we chose 3 eras: the 50s representing a winter scene, the 70s representing a disco era, and the 90s representing the patriotism of America.
And I am amazed at what you can do with chicken wire and crepe paper. Miracles do happen.
This year, I think our intention was to let the city know that we were around. We've never been in the parade before, and we have 400 or 500 kids in the program. We just want to let them know that we're here and we're part of Quincy.
The theme of the parade is 40 years of Christmas memories, and so we wanted to do something that was in keeping with that theme. So we decided on a Toyland theme, and we're titling our float The Toys of Yesterday and Today.
And the theme of our float is Santa's Soda Shop. And we're basing it from the time of the 50s. And we're the Quincy High School, and it's being done by the Student Council.
We're here from Quincy Hospital. My name's Joan Schwartz, and these are some kids from the Atlantic Middle School who helped me build the floats. Roger actually built the basis of the float, and we made a bunch of banners in the middle school. You want to talk about the banners for a sec and how we made them?
Well, we made them by X-ray films, and we were just cutting out pieces of paper, like for Hanukkah and stuff.
We got involved early last year when George White from the Patriot Ledger called us and asked us to participate. And since we have a retail mall that's just getting started in downtown Quincy, we decided that we'd go with the Christmas with the President's theme. So thus we have John Adams here and his wife Abigail Adams.
So it's a day of celebration, but also a reunion. And it's interesting in marching in the parade that you can watch and people stand in the exact same spots. So people have been there in some cases for 10 or 15 years. And you think of John and Phyllis Bagan, who take a place right near First Parish Church, and they bring a ladder now to make sure that they have the best view of the parade.
The original parade, we used to take the boys and we'd sit on the curb, be there half an hour early, and by the time parade started, everybody was in front of us. So as the children got a little older and they're a little steady on their feet, I put the oldest on the top, the second oldest on the next rung, and so on down, and I'd stay in the bottom and hold the ladder. And it worked out great for many, many years. But then we got too many children, so we had to devise another plan. So we used the scaffold, and we've used that probably for about 7 or 8 years now.
I helped build the scaffolding from the beginning. And when I go up there, I have to sit on one of the edges so that none of the little kids will jump off or anything or try and hurt themselves.
It's pretty fun. Like, I get to see everybody. We all get to be together.
I think it brings a lot of people together to the square to see. I think it kind of starts the holidays. It's like the beginning of the Christmas holidays, and if you can start your holidays with this much fun, it's good.
We don't, we only get together on birthdays and stuff like that, and it's another time that I get to see all my relatives and stuff.
The idea of Daddy's devotion to it and really taking it serious has been passed down to the children. I enjoy it a lot and get a lot of kicks out. My husband finds it's a real job that he feels it's very important. The poster contest started in about 1978, started by Dick Koch.
Well, certainly meant an awful lot to Dad. As most know, that he was the founder of the Koch Club back in 1948, and for over 40 years he served in the community in various capacities, but particular fondness was young people. And I think for him, whether it was the Christmas lighting the Friday night before, the young people once again watching the trees light up, or the parade itself, or the poster contest related to the parade, it was all geared to the young.
The contest begins in October, when Mary Blood and myself send out letters to all the principals of the different schools, informing them what the theme will be of the parade, and asking the children to work around that.
And especially this year with it being the 40th anniversary of the parade, it's even more meaningful. I know a lot of the children spoke with their parents and their grandmothers about the parade and how it was in the past, so this is a nice way of communicating with family members and making their own contribution for Christmas.
And I'm doing a poster of lots of presents under a Christmas tree. I'm working on my sketch right now for my poster for the Christmas parade. It's gonna have a manger right here and a Christmas tree and some people putting presents underneath the Christmas tree for the homeless.
They just seem to be very excited, and they planned this. Some of them planned their pictures last night before they came to school today, and they're using those to help them with their drawings this morning.
And the judges, from what I see, they look for originality. That's one of the biggest things. They look for the color. They look to sticking to the theme.
It was a special theme this year because of it being the 40th celebration, and obviously I wanted to incorporate the 40, and I had to think of something that would make the floats, make it easy for the floats to be decorated. And so I was thinking back on the last 39 years that they've had the festival, and so that made me think of memories, and I wanted to get Christmas into it, so it just came about that I said 40 years of Christmas memories.
I remember the year I was Strawberry Shortcake. I think I might have been 10 or 11 years old, and I was walking down the street, and I just had, I had this big hat and painted on freckles and a little pinafore, and well, usually when everybody starts out they're an elf, but I'm proud to say I was never an elf.
A lot of my characters are, they start out as elves, and they work their way up to big people. I have only been in charge of costume characters for 17 years, but I know that there were costume characters before that.
It was sort of a word of mouth in the neighborhood, and that's how the characters start. We do have to be very careful who we do allow to wear these costumes. People don't realize that they're expensive.
I have 12 of my own characters, and this year I have rented 6 characters. I think it's marvelous to walk down Hancock Street on the day of the parade and have the people say, "Thanks for a beautiful parade."
The time these kids have given up over a period of years has been magnificent. They've been great, and they've stayed with it. We weed out the kids that want to march down Hancock Street, but they don't want the gritty. It is not all glory, believe me.
Each helmet is different, and like some of them are too big, and some of them squish your nose up, and some of them you can't see at all. You have to look out of the mouth. And
being able to see out of the head is a problem. Because a lot of times you can't see, like if the kids run out to you in the parade, a lot of times you can't see them and you end up almost tripping right over them.
Once I was howdy doody and my pants kept falling down like the suspenders, so I always had to make that, keep it up. But sometimes walking behind the horses isn't good because, you know, they're me.
I always wanted to be a character, and I never really thought I would be.
It puts you in the Christmas spirit, and you make the kids happy. It's a good feeling.
They just love it. They give you big hugs, you know, they want to kiss you. It's great. It is. It's just, you know, I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. I love doing it.
I like it because of all the kids, and it's just part of Christmas.
I like doing it because, you know, I've made friends over the years, and I like seeing all the little kids and, you know, passing out candy canes. It's a tradition, and I'm used to it. And
they have a good sense of family, but they also have a sense of seeing how other kids react to the situation of the parade, and I think it gives them a lot of confidence to be what they want to be. They have to be able to stand up in front of someone and wave, which even if you have a mask on, sometimes is a little difficult.
They have a lot of poise as they grow older. People don't frighten them, and that's part of the battle today, is to be able to go out there and face it. And believe me, it was difficult for some of my children. They're shy, and to walk down Hancock Street with that crowd the first time is not easy.
Well, I tell you, the first time we left this church on the fire engine, you could have left me with some hankies, because just to see the faces of the kids is just phenomenal. They all light up and bubble, and you're just so excited. It's really a great feeling.
George White's in a costume every year. You ask George, and he'll be shaking hands all the way down the road there.
Well, I'm going to play my usual costume character and walk down Hancock Street. It just pleases me to see the young and old alike, and eyes pop, and the fun that they enjoy for the day. And so I've done it now for roughly about 15 years, and I wouldn't go down to Hancock Street any other way.
I've been involved with the Christmas Festival Committee for 37 years, and the general chairman for the past 11. But as people join the parade line of march and they go the distance of the parade, they're just fascinated that the parade is really the magnitude that we talk about.
But the Christmas parade has got better. I think it's kind of a thrill to march down, especially as you start off from School Street, down Hancock Street, and you've got just wall-to-wall people from the curb right in back. We all wave to the crowd. We see many friends who will recognize some of the politicians and the people in the parade.
I can remember even when I was a child, we used to go sit on the lawn down at St. Anne's, and more recently we fought to run it down to North Quincy. It's a much longer parade now than when I was a child, but I live in North Quincy, and that was a big thing at that time in the business district. I think even the children growing up and even adults, it's good family entertainment, and it really kicks off the Christmas season.
We went to meet the mayor that morning before the parade, and we had some photos with the mayor. Got an opportunity to meet at the time it was Mr. McIntyre, who I know the McIntyre family now, but at the time I just knew it was the mayor. And we rode we'd go and sit in the convertible, drive through the middle of the center, and picked up our gift certificates to go back to Child World, which was a fun part of it. Yeah, the entire family came out to see me, and our cousins came up from out of state, and my family did a nice job making it a big deal, for me itself. It was a nice warm feeling. It was more of a family event for us than anything else.
From my earliest memories of this Christmas parade, I was marching in it, holding a candy cane at my father's side, and just being with him and walking in the parade. So it's interesting to think that I really don't have an appreciation for the parade that many who've witnessed the whole spectacle in the past have, because I really don't think I've ever stood in one spot and watched this Christmas parade from start to finish.
It was something that everyone on the South Shore looked forward to coming to Quincy. And I really think it became part of Quincy's history and tradition and heritage, and it's really been good for our city, but good for the South Shore.
The last parade I was in 1975. It was the biggest parade I think we've ever had, and an awful lot of people. It was a glorious day, and I feel very privileged that I could have walked in those parades as mayor, and again, you're part of the city, and I've always lived here all my life, and so I've enjoyed it.
Well, I think the parade has maybe as many as 11 or 12 different parade routes where it started at School Street and the Parking Way and went down to Wollaston, and then probably a couple of years later it went from Wollaston back up Hancock Street to School Street and Parking Way. And there were various shorter areas that determined.
And then in '79, the parade started to really expand as far as distance goes. We started to go from School Street to the north end of the city, and I think for a couple of years we went up as far as Beach and Beale Street. And then City Councilor Joanne Condon, who represented North Quincy, made the suggestion one year that North Quincy would like to participate and be able to see this parade.
We've been going that route ever since, and I think it's good because the parade does spread itself out in terms of spectators and viewership, and although it's a much longer walk, this year we had some new people walking for the first time, and they'd say, "Judge, how can you walk 3 miles?" And I guess my answer is that if somebody said, "Hey, Judge, would you march or walk from Coleman Sporting Goods all the way down to North Quincy High School, just take a walk?" I think I'd have a big question as to whether I could make it. But when you walk down the street in front of the big crowd and you hear the Merry Christmases and thanks a lot type situation, the crowd exhilarates you, and it's 2.8, but it seems like a mile, so it goes by very quickly.
23 years ago when I started as an auxiliary police officer, I was a patrolman. And when they told me that I was going to be involved in a parade, I never realized I was put out there, a fairly new guy, patrolman, a rookie on the block there, and looking at all those people, and they gave me a traffic post to cover. And I think at the first time I was connected, I was down in the Wollaston area, and I was amazed at the thousands of people, and I was standing at the corner of Beach and Beale and Wollaston, and I saw all these people, and I was doing my traffic post. That to me was something to remember. My department, which is traffic and parking, which is another big undertaking, the signs, the ropes, the stands, the detours, barricades. Our crew is out at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're putting all that necessary stuff up on the secondary streets, on the main streets. The auxiliary police are out there. They do the traffic and crowd control. We bring them out early in the morning due to the fact that people start arriving early. We have a very special person that was a member of the parade and passed on, Remo Di Nicola, and God bless him, he always predicted good weather, and I got to give him a lot of credit.
There's only been 1 year that I know of that the parade was not held, was canceled. And that day, as we were meeting at 6:30 in the morning, and there were quite a few of us who have to make that decision that early, Remo was the only one that said, "Folks, don't cancel it. It's going to be a nicer day." And so after much discussion, we did cancel it. We canceled maybe 8:15 in the morning. And as Murphy's Law would say, the nicer day turned out to be a nicer day. And
the main recollection I have is the different weather conditions that occur, and how sometimes you have to have people come in the store to warm up and supply them with coffee if possible, and so on and so forth.
Most musicians don't want to play outside, ever, and certainly not at the end of November. So the only thing that made it worthwhile was the large crowd. Definitely the crowds and the cold. That's the Christmas parade. It's so big. It gives a performer an opportunity to take their act, whatever it is, and put it before more people than we'll probably ever see it again.
I was in the Quincy High School Band during the prime years, during the peak, so it was perfect because what you did was you just, everywhere you went, you knew you were going to win, or you knew you were going to place. And you didn't have to be a good musician, and I'm living proof of that, but you just learned to develop this attitude, and it was great. You learned all the tricks from Mr. Cahill. He'd say, "Okay, now play soft, because the only people that you're really playing for right now is the judges when you hit the judging area, and everybody else is going to try to blow them out of the water, and they don't care about that. They want to hear you play nice, melodic, and we were big enough we could pull it off. It was great.
A band is really like a large family. And, being that it is like a large family, there are those tense moments when, tempers will flare and people are emotionally charged. And it's on the other hand, when you've got a large family, a lot of humorous things occur too. And the story behind the story is, here is a community that, really cares about what its young people are doing and how they present themselves when they go out in public. That's how we always looked at it, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why we were very successful.
I started out with the Quincy High School Band. I marched with them. I was out of it the year that they went to the Cotton Bowl, but they were the very first New England band to participate in the Cotton Bowl parade. I've been involved with the parade committee in my present capacity for around 10 years as band coordinator. There are different kinds of judging. They judge bands on percussion, on marching, general effect. Color guard is another whole aspect, as are the majorettes. But each judge rules on certain qualities, and everything adds up to points of 100, and then it's sort of added up. They have a person that sits in a van and just like adds all these numbers up. It's unbelievable, and I can never figure out how they do it so quickly. And then there's a chief judge that just keeps things going through the area where they're judged, just to make sure that there's nothing in the way. And the day of the parade is actually quite remarkable. They all join in together at the parking lot, and if you looked at 10 o'clock in the morning, you'd never think that anything would be ready by the time the parade starts. It's just this, a million people all running around, but boy, they're great, and we get them organized very quickly.
You have the band activity, which is overseen by Ann Morrow. You have the parade day coordinator who takes on the responsibility, which is Ann's husband, Bill, does a super job. I think we'd all agree if you showed up at the point the parade is starting, you'd see nothing but utter chaos, and you'd probably say to yourself, is this thing ever going to work? But yet when that 12:30 comes, starts down the street, and we have few problems.
We have a few that have been very long-time participants. Holbrook High School is one of them, and two Chicopee bands. There's Chicopee High School and there's Chicopee Comprehensive High School, and they're actually directed by brothers.
Our father was the band director and music director in the city of Chicopee, so we just followed in his footsteps. Sort of a natural thing to do.
Being the older brother, I went to Chicopee High, and Bill, being the younger brother, went to Chicopee Comp. The kids like it because they get a chance to rub elbows with other kids from other schools, and that's very important for them too. And again, I'll go back to the thing is, if you win your division, that's a big thing to take home too.
Our first year here, as I said, in 74, 75, I didn't know there were different divisions by size of band. So we entered a division. Come to find out, it was for big bands, and my band then only numbered about 60. And we competed against these bands with over 100. Well, we happened to win that year, and the trophy at that time that they were giving stood about 4.5 to 5 feet high and was about 2.5 feet wide, and we had a problem getting it onto the bus to bring it home. It was just a monster. So that was kind of a fun thing. It had a prominent place on the bus once we got it on.
They always look forward to this parade for the competition, the other schools that are here, and kind of the general excitement of the time, and it almost begins our holiday season for us. Our main theme is pride. Pride in what you're doing, pride in your school, and doing the very best job. Maybe you may not be the best musicians, but pride in your ability and what you can do. So that's what we do.
We've been invited 3 years. This is our third year. We're the only junior high band that gets invited here. Now, we march a lot of parades all over the state and out of state, and this is one of the best. It really is.
I grew up in Weymouth, and I marched with the Weymouth South High School Marching Band, and I also worked in Holbrook, Mass., and I marched with Ed Myers and the Holbrook Bulldogs Band here. And I just remembered the parade, and we've been trying to find a different parade to do in the autumn. I'm real proud just to bring these guys down. This is my old stomping grounds, and well, I can't wait. Can't wait to, for the people down here that know me to see where the kid went and what he did, and this is the chance, so.
Oh, I think of my days when I used to march. Kills me. Every now and then I'll stand there and my feet will start going, and it was great. You had all your friends and your families all around, and it was the best.
I was able to march with the committee as president of the QCBPA, and all these people are applauding me, and I'm saying to myself, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything to realize this applause, but the committee certainly did.
I looked down through the years. Father Tierney really began the parade, and then of course George Fay was a great leader, and now George White. I think that we've been really blessed in the city of Quincy with individuals who have been great leaders in this area, and they have brought creativity, they have brought enthusiasm, they have brought energy, they have brought commitment, they have brought a sense of history, a sense of where the parade belongs in the hearts and minds of the people who see it, where the parade belongs in terms of the city of Quincy, and where the parade really belongs in terms of history.
My recollections about being in the parade and being on my horse Gold Rush and riding in the parade and the warm greeting that I got when I was here, well, that's something that I'll remember forever.
There were 2 years that we went out and we solicited the same people that put the big balloons in the Macy's parade. And that was a tremendous experience.
This would be about our 20th year. And originally we just had 2 horses in a small wagon. And then over the years, the involvement with the Clydesdales has gotten progressively greater. And in more recent years, we've had 8 Clydesdales and, of course, the big wagon in the background here. Clydesdales and the team is a tremendous source of pride for the owners and the employees of the Hallamore Transportation Company. And it's just a chance to get out and show off a little bit.
The McDonald's All-American Band, they were here a few years ago, and it in fact was a coup to get them. But they were in the area, I believe it was for the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade, and they did in fact come up here to participate, and they were just fabulous.
Grand Marshals was about 8, 10 years ago, and we've had some good Grand Marshals. They've all been so nice to contribute their time and the interest of the community in the parade, and we greatly appreciate that.
When George White called me and asked me to be the chief marshal of a parade that has been so well known in the city of Quincy and throughout the state, I was most honored. Because when you look over the chief marshals of so many years, they go from one end of the spectrum to the other, whether it be sports or entertainment or veterans or what have you.
To be selected to be the Grand Marshal was very, very special to me and a very meaningful part of my life.
The committee made a plaque in honor of George, and we had the dedication. George's family was there along with committee members and many, 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 many other people because of George's, the respect that a lot of people had for George. Just about everybody had that same respect. And today that island is still there in his memory. And
My memory is last year when they had the Mount Rushmore flag. To me, that will top all parades. That was just breathtaking. I mean, I'm talking about it now and I'm getting chills.
That flag going up that day is something that I think the people in the city of Quincy and all over this country who are here will never ever forget.
I think it's symbolic of the fact that this is an outstanding city. It's an outstanding parade. Hundreds of thousands of people come to Quincy to see this phenomenon. And I think that's symbolic of what this city is like 365 days out of the year.
What I want to leave to my grandchildren in the city, which I love, is a sense that they have something here. This parade is wonderful. And if we don't, as a family and a group, work on it there won't be a parade.
I hope that when the time comes that George White decides that he just can't do it anymore, that there are people within this community and leaders within this community that would move in as though there's no change at all and continue to leave Quincy with the name that they do have, the largest and the best Christmas parade on the East Coast.